Oh, well, today I'm making some special tools for cutting out the groove in the base, so a shrink pot. And this is a shrink pot. I'll give you some close-up views in just a minute. But it's basically, the idea of a shrink pot is it's made out of green wood from a tree branch, and you hollow it out, and then you get a very dry bit of wood for your base, and you cut a groove around on the inside, and then as it dries, the wood dries, or the branch, it shrinks around the dry wooden base and makes a very tight, in fact watertight if you do it well, very tight fit. So this is a pot I made with the bodgers a while back. I'm going to be making some more soon, so I thought I'd make some tools. And the tools I'm going to make are to cut the groove for the base. This is very fiddly, cutting a groove in there with knives, with more knives, etc. So I'm going to cut a groove using special tools. So I'm going to show you how to make these tools using very basic tools and making them out of old drill bits, so it doesn't really cost you anything at all. I got the idea for these cutting tools from Phill, the hedge laying Phill, and Phill has his channel Voodoo Alpaca, so worth a look at that. Yeah, just wanted to give a credit to Phill there. So tool wise, we want to make 3 different tools. 2 will be cutters for cutting the side wall, so they'll be just like a bit like a knife blade on a handle. And then the 3rd more complicated tool would be a bit like, if you can imagine your curved pinky finger, but it would be a curved cutter going in to cut out the actual groove. So we'll start with the 2 knife tools first, and then we'll do the groovy tool. I have here a drill bit, 1/4 inch drill bit. So, blow lamp. Hope this heats it up enough. If not, I'll get a bigger gas burner. Fire brick's not essential, it's just there to try and deflect the heat and to really get a bit more heat for your money, if you know what I mean. The reason I'm using an old drill bit, it's the good steel, it's a tool steel. So it's got a bit of carbon in it, and it means I can harden and temper it. So that's now coming up. I should be rotating this a bit more really. Can I do that in one? I think I'll leave that burning and just give this a bit of flattening off. So what I'm doing, I'm just flattening the end tip, so it's the part of the drill bit that goes into the drill chuck. And I'm just going to get that flattened off so I can make a flat knife type cutter out of it. I've got it to quite a nice slim profile now, so that's what I want. I'm now going to heat it up and then plunge it into oil, and that will harden it. The oil I'm using, it's cooking vegetable oil, just ordinary oil. The reason I use oil for the hardening is that its greatest heat, and the oil is a bit more gentle than water. One could use water, it worked perfectly okay. It would probably give it a bit more shock and therefore a bit more likely to split. Swirl it around and that will cool it down. So the hardening basically makes it too hard to sharpen. The tempering, and also it will be very brittle, the tempering will make it soft enough to sharpen and also make it so that it's not so brittle it will break in use. So that's the hardening stage done. I've brought in the big boy. There we are. Right. That's hardened it. It's also warmed up my workshop rather a lot. So what I have now are 2 drill bits with flattened ends, and these will be the cutters for doing the walls of the groove. So if you can imagine those going in with sharp edges, they will cut the walls of the shrink pot. So what I now need to do is make the 3rd tool, and that will be the one like the hooky cutter that will pull out the waste wood between the 2 cuts, so it will pull out and make a ditch or a trough in the wood for the shrink pot base. So one more drill bit, I will flatten it and then I will curve it. So again, I have another screwdriver end here, and what I'm going to do now on this one is grind it a little bit to get it a little bit slimmer. Then I'm going to put it on the anvil end and just bend it over. Now if you don't have an anvil, just find a bit of pipe or something else that you can knock it over on. Yep, that's enough. So that's it bent over. So that's the bend put in. I'm now going to give that a final harden and let it be ready for tempering. So heating it up. This is hardening now, the curved one. So I've got it to a nice red heat, into the oil, whiz it around. I'm now using the smaller blowtorch for the tempering stage, and what I'm doing, I'm heating up just behind the cutting edge, and what I want to do is watch for the tempering colours to travel down that flat shiny surface. So I've cleaned the blade so I can see the colours running, but what you'll get will be a sort of straw margin running down that blade, and behind it like a purple colour. Or when the straw hits the tip of the blade, that's the temper. I'm tempering the straw colour, and that's what you want. So I'm just heating behind the cutting edge. Right, straw is appearing, there's a purple, in front of it is a straw, it's showing quite nicely on this. And it will run very quickly now, straw in. You have to really be ready with your water, have it close to hand. Because once it starts running, it runs very fast indeed. But you can see that, hopefully if I hold that on camera, sorry, get it in a light where you might have a chance of seeing it. Turn that off for a minute. Right, let me try and show you what I mean by this, because it's frozen in time here quite nicely. I'm hoping that shows up enough on camera. What you've got like a purpley edge just off the back here. Purpley edge just off the back, and then at the cutting edge it's gone a straw colour. So that's perfect, that's frozen in time. What happens is that colour runs down the drill bit, and as you get straw at the tip, that's where you temper to, and that will give you, it softens the metal up a bit. It means you can sharpen it easily. It means it's not so brittle that it snaps when you use it. It will hold its edge well. So it's not too critical for something like this, but it's nice to try and get it as best as you can. So that's tempering to straw. I'm just going to turn up the handles now. So I've got something out which is very rare for me. It's called a power lathe. So I normally use a foot operated treadle lathe, but pole lathe, but as that's at the moment not in use, I'm resorting to this lathe which I haven't used in ages. Can I still turn? Nearly there, just do a little bit more, and that's the handle basically there, and then I'll drill for the drill bit to go in through there. I'll just cut these two off, cut old desk legs for that one, and this is an old bit of fence post, but that's my handles. So here are the handles. I'm now just marking out the holes for the cutters. So the first cutter that cuts the first lower wall of the shrink pot is very roughly probably about 3/8 of an inch. You want enough thickness for the bottom of the pot that it's strong. I'll show you with the bottom of a pot. So there's the bottom of the pot. So that seems about the right sort of position. Okay, so that's the first hole drilled in. So I've marked on the centre of the hole I've just drilled for the lower cutter. I want the two cutters to be spaced just a tiny bit wider than this curved cutter. So my next centre is going to be roughly in the middle of that, which is a bit of a mark. So that's where I'll drill next for the upper cutter for the wall. If you want to get scientific about your spacings, you can actually use a set of calipers to work out the centre point of each of the wall cutters, and then you can find your midpoint between the two cutters. I'm just going to cut off the ends of the drill bit that I don't want, so I'm using an angle grinder for that. Obviously use all your protective gear for this one. So what I've now got are 3 tool bits after all that work, and I've slightly roughed up the stalks of them as well for taking the iodite glue and make sure there's not any oil residue on there. So I will iodite them in next. I've just been chiseling away the corners of the round holes, so the blades for the flat cutters, they're flattened out like screwdriver heads, and so that they don't turn and so they fit well in the hole, I've just chiseled out a bit on each corner. All set now with some fairly fast setting iodite, and squash the excess glue off there, keep that flush. That's that one, and have I got enough for this last one? I might just, I don't want to waste it. I think in retrospect, looking at this, if I was doing another set, I would actually make this shoulder larger, because when you're in there it does rest quite okay to do the cutting, but with a larger shoulder I think it will give you a better cutting position. Well, that's good. I've got 3 shrink pot tools made fair. As I say, I think the one thing I would change if I was doing it again in the way I've made those, I would make the collars on the tools a little bit wider. And what I mean by the collars as I grab a tool is this bit. I think they would be better coming out quite a bit more. This will work because they will grip into the, I'll be careful, this is still drying, they will grip in and do the cutting, which is what I need. But I think if they were out another ½ inch, that would make them even better. But yeah, well, it's learning, isn't it, trying all these things. Anyway, I'm going to be using these tools next weekend. We have another Bodger shrink pot making day, so it'll be good fun to try them out and see how they go. I hope you enjoyed watching the film, and thanks so much for watching. I'll give you a few little panning shots as we run out. Okay then, bye bye.